Hello and welcome one and all as we kick off tonight's event. One of my favorite events. I kind of wish we did this almost monthly, although I'm just creating more work for all of us when I say that. We love connecting with you and hearing from you and knowing better how we can serve you. And so this is really a fun get together. Anytime we get multiple members of the ISA together to have a dialogue with you to really hear what's on your mind, what your questions are. And we do have a bit of a rundown tonight on what we're going to be talking about, gigs, feedback, getting started in your career, getting noticed as a creator, all that. But our phone lines are open. So at any time, you can ask whatever question you want, and we will try to get to as many questions by the end of it. Probably won't, which is a good problem to have. We just want to engage with you. And those questions, even if we don't get to them, it might lead to other videos that we make. So without further ado, I want to introduce our amazing, esteemed panel, starting with Craig James, who is our founder and CEO. We have Felicity Wren, Vice President of Development, Max Timm, our Director of Education, Shayna Weber, our creative executive, the creative executive, screenwriter and filmmaker. And something that I think needs to be stated often is that, shouldn't say stated often, but we are all creators on our own outside of the ISA as well. So we're kind of all in the same boat with you, trying to figure it all out, trying to stay abreast of what's going on in the industry as it's always changing.
And Scott is our senior content manager.
Oh, yeah, that dude.
That's right.
Who produces and manages all of the things that we do live, much less, I shouldn't even say much less, as well as all the other videos that you see on YouTube, which if you are not subscribed to YouTube, I think you're kind of lazy. Because
he's coming out hot.
For those of you who have tuned in and seen me do my own lectures, I always give everybody a little bit of hell because it's so easy to subscribe to our free YouTube channel. You should do it if you haven't yet.
You're just missing out. You're not lazy. You're missing out.
Missing out on a lot of good stuff.
Sometimes
go to our ISA Insider page and you can see podcasts and you can see pro tip videos and lots of articles. And there's, the wrap and everything that's going on in the industry, from Movie Maker to Creative Screenwriting Magazine and Script Magazine. There's lots of great stuff there.
Yes.
I've also had a couple drinks of this drink, so that might make
we're getting into it. We're getting serious.
A little wilder.
Yeah. And before we jump completely in, we do have to thank our sponsors for tonight's event, which is Shore Scripts and New Filmmakers LA. Both organizations that we've worked with a lot in the past. And something I love about the ISA is that we really vet who we work with. So we don't just give a shout out to just anybody. They have to be an organization that we really believe in as well and are happy to have part of our family, because we try to just make sure that anybody that you, the audience, hears about through us, we want to be proud to be working with them. And we're absolutely proud to be working with Shore Scripts and New Filmmakers LA. There's a lot of information in the description, but I'll give a quick and brief overview because it leads to giveaways. Everybody loves that. But New Filmmakers LA champions emerging and diverse filmmakers and storytellers from around the world and provides a forum where filmmakers can be recognized for their contributions, have open discussions about their work, and connect with industry professionals for insight on distribution, production, and representation. Likewise, Shore Scripts was set up to help emerging screenwriters break into the industry. They are made up of a small number of filmmakers working in the US and in the UK, along with the Oscar, Cannes, Emmy, Golden Globes, BAFTA winning judges. They have strong industry connections with over 100 production companies, agents, managers, all on board to read each year's scripts. And tonight, at any point, put in the comments here your favorite fact you learned, your tidbit, your tip, anything like that. And we're going to be doing a drawing to give away tickets to the New Filmmakers LA May event, which I might get back to at the end to talk a little bit more about what they have coming up in May. And so they just doing this the whole time so that we can see the logos a little bit better.
Yeah, there it is. But so they just have to comment about something that they learned during this event.
During this event, do it live. You can also tweet at us at Network ISA, but you can also, you can just stay right here on this platform and leave a comment live. And we'll be going through in the next day or two and pulling some winners. Okay. Yes. So I guess diving right in, getting into the state of the industry, we are post strikes finally, as far as the writers and the actors. Therefore, $1 million spec screenplays are being sold hand over fist constantly. What is the real look at the industry? And I guess I'll start with Felicity. What are you seeing as you're out there? Because I know you're on the front lines along with Max and Shayna, engaging different companies about trying to move projects.
Thank you. Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Felicity. What we're seeing out there at the moment is there's still a bit of trepidation. I think everyone hoped when the writer's strike were over and the actor's strike that it was suddenly like, hey, it's 2024, off we go. But actually, we're still considering IATSE. IATSE is still working out their deal. And I think during the writer's strike and after, there's been a real sense of, are we making films the right way? Are we creating TV shows the right way? And so there has been a shuffling in the industry about, I think there's been a reset in companies. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of jobs were lost in development. So everyone's trying to work out, how do we fit now? I think TV, the thing we have heard is that TV has contracted. So less willing to take risks on new writers. They want more established shows. And for features, I think, the tentpole features are always going to be continuing. That's a business that's well and truly settled. But I think at the Oscars, when the person that was American Fiction, the director of American Fiction, said, can we do more movies, smaller movies rather than one big movie? And I think there has been a sense of optimism around smaller movies and the independent scene. And so I think, especially if you are starting out or that you are looking to put your career together, then if you're not known, if you haven't got a massive career already, then I think looking towards the independent filmmaking market is probably a good idea.
Yeah, that was such a tremendous quote during his acceptance speech, because for the longest time it was a slam dunk. Oh, we put $200 million into this Marvel movie and we'll make $1 billion, and that paradigm doesn't exist the same anymore, which is a big bummer for Disney. But it might open the door, I'm hoping, for a lot of smaller movies. And smaller than $200 million can still be a substantial film. But hopefully that leads to more production. Does anybody else? I'd love for this to become just a conversation. So if anybody has anything else that they want to add on this topic, feel free to
I
just
think
jump
that from somebody who's trying to make my own movies, besides working with ISA, I'm also a screenwriter and producer and reluctant director, as I say. I think the hustle is just still what you have to do. If you want your movie made, you have to do more than just write. And that means learning new skills. It means figuring out where you can get money. It means meeting people who you can reach out to. The hustle just continues, and it just, everyone's hungry. So keep your optimism up, keep your energy up, and really believe in your projects. Have a really good project that you're going out with, and try to find a tribe of people who are going to help you and can help push that forward, and go make it.
Yeah. And bless you, Felicity.
Yeah.
It's almost exactly what I was going to say in terms of what Shayna just said. I think that if you put a positive, and I don't even think it's a spin, it's just if you look at it positively, figure out what you can control and do that, as opposed to relying on the outside industry that feels like it's so outside, to be the arbiter, of your success. What can you do yourself? And don't be too not blindfolded, but
Tunnel vision.
Tunnel visioned about just writing. There are other things you can work on, and writing just screenplays, but there are other things you can work on, from online journals to blog posts to creating an Instagram account with stories and try to get your name out there, or make a short. There are so many other things you can do, but also try to start small. If you've never had a project produced, if you've never sold anything or set anything up, try to start small. Try to figure out a way to make a movie for $75,000. or put together an amazing sizzle for a series and put this huge, unbelievable pitch deck together for a project that is really fantastic. You have to do more work, but I look at that in a positive way where, okay, now the power has shifted. Not about power, but the responsibility has shifted a little bit that much more on the writer to be creating these things yourself.
Yeah.
Make a movie for 10 grand, do a GoFundMe and
I just say 75 is a lot.
support you. Yeah. And make something that's 5 minutes long. That's 10 grand that you can get in festivals and that you can put out there. You can make a website, put it out there. It's the best way to kind of get yourself noticed beyond the words on the page. It's much more than just that at this point. You have to somewhat be a personality, and your voice shows on the page, but it also has to show by talking to people and putting yourself out there. So unfortunately, if you're a massive introvert, which a lot of us are, you still have to practice and figure out how to work through that. And if you really want your story told, figure out how to do it.
Yeah. Just wanted to call out this great comment from Diane. Hi, Diane.
Mhm.
Learned to love the
Hey,
hustle of
Diane.
making a short film, so much so that it inspired me to make a feature. Daunting, but not impossible. And yeah, all that just becomes experience that you can build on. And maybe you find out that I've got this fascination or enthusiasm for something that I didn't know I'd ever want to do. And it sends you on a whole different career path, which is exciting as well. And yeah, as Craig and Shayna were saying, 75 grand, I know in the Hollywood side is nothing. But in the human side, it's like, that's still 75.
The reason I brought that up, though,
It feels like it's
one of my
a lot.
writers was saying he got his first movie made, and he directed it for $75,000 because he got 75 different people to give him $1,000. So that's kind of where my brain was.
Sure.
So I mean, it's possible if you have that many people in your,
Can
your
I
network.
meet his friends? Whoever that has 75 people who are going to give him $1,000. Hi, I'm Shayna.
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
But that,
It's hard.
I mean,
It's
Do you
hard
have
asking for money.
Sorry, what?
No, it's hard asking for money from people that you know. It's amazing that he's got 75 people, but on some level, he either was networking great, right? He was friendly and engaging, had a great pitch for his story. He convinced people to put that money in, and one after another gets a little bit easier because once you get the first 35, now you're probably getting some momentum. It's the first couple that are hardest. But like really understanding your story and knowing what you're wanting to sell, so to speak, and understanding your own voice, all those things come into play. I mean, one way I've told this story, everybody knows the story from the ISA, but one way that I raised money for my pilot was just being at the dog park and chit-chatting with some people, dog owners, and guy asked me, what I do. I told him about making some short films. And he wanted to look at one. He thought it was so funny. He's like, what are you doing next? I said, well, I'm raising money to shoot a pilot. He's like, how much do you need? And he wrote me a check the next day. And that was just from just being passionate about what I want to do with my life, and make this story that meant a lot to me, because it was a very, it was kind of a coming of age, quarter life crisis type thing that I experienced and I wrote about. And so I had the passion to pitch it. And got that after he saw something I did that was really small, just a small little short film, that motivated him to go ahead and help fund the pilot.
I think the main thing about all the things we're talking about, it seems to me, if you don't mind me butting in there, is that you mustn't see it as a chore that you have to do this extra work. In fact, I would say see it as a blessing. So, I don't mean religiously, but just as a blessing in the fact that you get to have more of a say. So when you are creating your short, you can put your vision together. You can get a group of people together that you really like. You can make sure it has the actors that you know that you want to cast in it. So you get a bit more control. Same as building a pitch deck. Before now, I mean, it's like everything, filming and everything used to be so far away from the normal human being because it was so expensive, films, cameras, all that stuff. Whereas now you can film stuff on your phone. So understanding that you have more control and that your vision isn't only written now, you can actually bring your own artistic and creative ability to the projects, even your pitch decks, in the short films, in the other materials that you're creating, including writing yourself a succinct and beautiful pitch. That means that when you are meeting someone in a dog park,
Right.
you've got something to talk about.
No, I think it's a really
And
good point. You have to
practice,
be prepared. It's prepared when someone asks, who are you? What are you doing? Or what do you do? What are you working on? And if you're not prepared to just relay that, or at least not comfortable enough yet with yourself, it shows. I remember Craig relaying a story that he heard, in terms of Bryan Cranston, and you can probably tell better than me, Craig, but Cranston was saying when he understood that auditioning was the job, that's when everything became easier for him. That was the job. His job was to audition. The reward was the actual gig that he gets paid for. And it's such a healthy way of looking at this. Like, our job is to just write and create as much as we possibly can so that the world and the industry knows who we are. So when Krantz is going on all these auditions, which actors, and Felicity, you can speak to this better than I can, you go on so many freaking auditions that it's exhausting. And after a while, it's like, what am I doing? And it feels the same way as a writer. It's like, how many screenplays can I write that nobody reads or they don't want anything? This is a job. This is what we do.
There's also, though, the thinking, that, I've written a screenplay, I've got quarterfinals, or I've maybe even made my way into higher than quarterfinals, that I'm going to spend the next 5 years of my life trying to sell that project and not developing something new. You do need to keep at it and keep working on the next project and not sit in the one, because just because a project gets some accolades doesn't mean the world is ready to see it, right? It could be a well-written script. You could demonstrate your craft. But and there may be, your voice is being represented clearly in there. But you can't sit on that one project. That's one of the things I was thinking about earlier. Is just like, don't sit there and wait for this one project to become the thing that is your breakthrough. You got to keep at it, because you never know what's going to cycle into time.
Yeah, things do come around. I was just thinking about, to that point and to Max's point about Bryce Dallas Howard. I don't know if anyone saw about that, Ron Howard's daughter. And if you think, she's got a few connections in the business, right? And her grandmother said to her, when she found out she wanted to be an actress, she was like, why do you want to be an actress? And she said, well, I just love telling stories. And she said, well, you know that you have to know that you're not going to get most of your auditions. And she was like, yeah, no, it's fine. But obviously she thinks, my dad's Ron Howard, I'm going to get a lot of these auditions. It was, she did 42 auditions before she got her first callback, and her first 42. And that's Ron Howard's daughter. You know what I mean? And there was she said her acting manager was, how have you kept going? Most people would have given up. After 10, no, thank you very much.
Morgan Freeman didn't get his first gig, which was Electric Company, until he was in his 40s, and he had been auditioning for like 10 years, and it might have been less than that.
He probably was a theater actor before that. He was
acting.
Yeah.
And Bryce, I consulted Bryce. I worked with Bryce on 2 of the projects that she was trying to write, and what I loved about her is that she was always so open-minded and humble about knowing there's more to learn. There's something else that she can learn, and this is, at the time she was a big name. Now she's become even bigger. And what I've noticed about, I worked with a few people who are kind of at that level. They're all open to knowing more and being better and improving constantly. And too many people that I've worked with feel that they're there already. Yeah. And that they don't have that much more to learn.
That's what I'm saying about like winning an award or two, or even winning a competition completely, or getting into some sort of fellowship, or getting into some sort of writing program. These are all great things, but you have to keep at it, keep working on your craft, and keep developing the next project, because you just don't know which one will, get you in there.
Well, and those Oscar winners, everybody who won an Oscar this year, they still have to go out and work. They're not just being handed projects all the time. I mean, some of them are probably being offered certain things, but there are choices to be made, and especially the writers. Paul Haggis, I interviewed Paul Haggis a few years ago, and he's still writing things on spec. He's writing a script to see if he can sell it. Nobody's just giving him all this money.
But getting the feedback, and I was going somewhere with that and I got off track, but getting lots of notes and listening to the notes and being open to the notes. I mean, that's something we're probably going to get into a little bit, but because we're kind of going down different rabbit holes here, but it's so critical. That's one of the things that I think a lot of writers struggle with, is asking for notes and receiving them. That's a real difficult thing for a lot of writers, is to take the note in, because you send it out. Let's be honest. You send it out to competitions expecting to win or hoping to win. You send it out for feedback to get somebody to tell us how great it is. That's generally what we're doing. But the reality is that that's not what you're paying for. You're paying to get somebody to tell you how to make it better, to make your vision clearer. And if you're not willing to hear that, you're not willing to listen to that advice from somebody from a reputable company, it's not, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. That was a waste of money. It's a scam or whatever. No, it's to help you improve, because we all on this call know this, and probably everybody listening, most people listening, it's a hard business to break into. It's really difficult, and it's tightened up this year more so than ever. So what can you do to make yourself stand out? Utilize resources to help you get it. It doesn't have to be the ISA. It could be a group of in a writer's group where you're swapping scripts and you're at least taking steps if you're on a budget, all that sort of thing. But get notes and then listen to them, and then, because they always sting at first, step away from them, let them sink in, come back. They sting a little less the second time, the third time. But the more you kind of like contemplate them, take a long walk and meditate on it. Like, what did they mean by that? Like, try to get to the root of it and see if there is a way to apply the note, but trusting your instincts too, right? Because resisting notes is a bad idea. Not trusting your instincts on notes that may be just, spaghetti at the wall. You don't want to just try to please everybody. So there's a balance between all that.
Sure.
Absolutely. I mean, I always kind of say with notes, sorry, Scott, the thing I say about notes is, for me personally, I know what I'm trying to do with my notes. If I give someone notes, is I'm trying to see if what you wanted to put on the page is what I got from it. So because you have obviously have an idea that a story you wanted to tell, a way you wanted to tell it, characters you wanted to share with the world. And I'm trying to tell you, I'm giving you my feedback of what I got from reading it. And then in the middle of that gap, it might be brilliant. I might be getting exactly what you wanted. But in that gap is where we are trying to I'm trying to tell you what I've got. And you're going, well, I actually wanted you to feel this. So then what can you manipulate? What can you move? How can you think about the story in a different way so that the next person who reads it, and this might take 3 or 4 drafts, let's be honest, but they'll actually understand what you wanted to put on the page, and you will succeed in getting that across. I can hear myself going back. Can anyone else hear that?
A little bit, but you're okay.
Okay. We still got the message, and I think you were about to say that you felt like the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
I don't know. Does Felicity know the Lou Gehrig reference? There we go.
Okay. On the moon.
So I think I'd love to get back right into this, but there's been a lot of us saying, well, you oughta. Let's tell a little bit about us and how we got to where we are. A bit of an origin story from each of you on a core level, but not like what was your first Hollywood job, which is always a fun question. But what was the moment? It could be a job, it could be an eye-opening experience that set you on the path that you're on right now. And it could have been yesterday, for all I know. I don't keep up with you guys that much, but it could have been 5 years ago. Like, oh, I want to go down this path. Does anybody have an answer for that right away? You can go first.
Shayna, I knew Shayna
was going to call Shayna, but I didn't want to put you on the spot. All right.
So I worked in reality TV for between 15 and 20 years, not to age myself. But so I was working in reality TV, and I was kind of dabbling in writing, but I was producing reality TV, and I was always talking about the script that I was writing, but I was working so much that it was really difficult to do that. And then I was working on So You Think You Can Dance, and we were in Las Vegas at the main semi-audition thing where it's like Go to Hollywood week or whatever. And one of the camera operators named Ade, he was like, you need to stop doing this, and you need to join this writer's group that my wife is in, and you need to take this seriously, and you need to write this script because you're talented and you're smart. And I listened to him, and I was scared out of my mind to join this writer's group because I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. And I was terrified in the writers group for probably a year. I was just like, oh my God, what am I doing? I still feel like, what am I doing? But sometimes it takes somebody to kind of like kick you in your butt to say, go and do this, because this is what you want to be doing. This is what you should be doing. And so from there I joined, and then I started writing, and then, started producing short films and little projects and stuff here and there. So yeah, that's the origin into like this full-time screenwriting world.
'Cause what was your path, do you think, prior to making that turn? Just continuing
Well,
on the production?
yeah,
reality?
probably. I mean, I was in reality TV, and I knew I didn't want to be a reality showrunner. So I was like looking up at that top job, and I was like, I don't want to be up there. Like, I want to be over here. And it just took kind of a leap of faith, I guess, essentially, to sort of really get out of my own way and believe in myself enough to say, okay, I am a talented writer. I can tell stories. I do have something to say. I can do it. And it takes a lot of work, but yeah, it was kind of just like the kick in the butt
That's great.
for me.
Who's next?
Who's next?
I can
Yeah.
jump in. My origin story is I was in the mortgage industry, but wanted to be an actor. And when I finally got out of the mortgage industry and was moving to California at 27, 28 years old, I realized I had nothing on my resume. Going to Los Angeles with nothing on my resume. How am I going to stand out? How am I going to get anybody to take me seriously? So I wrote a screenplay and took some money that I made in the mortgage industry and spent it on making a movie, and learned a ton. And it was so much fun that I'm like, let's do this again. So I wrote another one, spent all the money I made in the mortgage industry, and went broke. But before that, when we screened We Four-Walled, my second film, a feature at the old Gateway on Lawrence Avenue, I think, in Chicago. And all my friends and family and everybody out there, and somebody came up to me, and the two best things that were said to me was, the first one is, you got a movie on the big screen. Even if you paid for it, you still got a movie on the big screen. And that just made that moment just like so just great. But the other was not comments necessarily on my acting. It wasn't bad, but it was more about the writing. You need to keep writing. And that kind of led me down this path to the ISA, which I never would have thought of. It was just a means to an end for me originally, was to cast myself as the lead in my own story. And then it became something that I guess I had a knack for, and it felt really good. And there were stories that I think confidently, I'm not afraid to talk about the things that I've gone through in my life. I don't resist that stuff. I put it all out there in my writing. And, if someone doesn't connect to it, that's okay. But the point is that's where it all kind of started for me, was those couple comments. And now more a filmmaker, although I do want to get back into some acting, but it feels just like more, it doesn't feel as in sync as the filmmaker part of me and the writing, and then ideally putting movies together, producing and directing, that sort of thing.
All right.
Felicity, go for it. What was? I don't remember what yours was.
Well, I mean, at 7, I had to choose between ballet and drama. I mean, like literally, it was then.
I love that.
And my second toe had got very long. And I don't know if you know about ballet, but if you go on points, that second toe thing is all those pictures of people's toes that have been crumpled in point shoes, it's because the second toe is too long. I also liked eating sweets and things, and it seems like ballet, you need to be. Right?
So your podiatrist and your dietitian set you on your path.
My very long second big toe. I owe it all to them, really. At the day of the Oscars,
Owe it to the toe.
Thank you, second big toe. You helped me so much on this part. So anyway, I guess I started then a long time ago. I was trying to think of a moment that sent me kind of like further than that, which is, I loved acting, but I hated being at the mercy of everyone else. And that became very clear to me. We had a production company. We were running a little venue in London. A guy had written a play for me. And I was supposed to go to New York to be in it, and the New York last minute decided to cast someone else, and I didn't have a say in it. And I cried quite a lot about that. And I realized then that I didn't want someone else to be always in charge of my destiny. And I think I am a control freak. There is that too. So I was always like, how can I make sure that I'm telling the stories I want to tell, and also that I'm in control in some ways, so things aren't just at the mercy of others, that my life isn't just, actors really, you spend so much time waiting to be picked, and you can not be picked just because they've already got a blonde person that they've chosen, and nothing to do with your talent. And also I can understand why so many actors become producers now, so they can actually create some incredible content and give themselves a chance to do what they need to do in the best way they can. But I think I've always believed in words changing the world, and telling stories can make people feel differently about themselves and about each other. And I want to do that. I want to shed kindness. I want to spread happiness. I want to spread optimism and compassion for other humans and animals. So, but you know what I mean? But animals are so hard in movies, they need a wrangler, they do a poo on set. It's not easy doing that, but saving us humans by telling stories where we can be kind to each other.
They don't poo on cue.
Yes, see?
We got a lot of takes.
Poet. And you're not only a good writer and actor, Craig, you're a poet. Who knew?
Say it? Didn't even know. That's right.
I think I don't know a lot. You've all heard my origin story. I'll kind of switch it up a little bit, but I think what I've noticed just from everybody else's, and because Scott and I go way back, he was quite literally my first roommate when I moved to Los Angeles. We went to college together, even though we weren't in any classes together. And so
I just hung out at the dorms.
He would just wander the street. But everything that we're all saying started with a choice. We chose to do something, and we followed the choice over and over and over and over again, as difficult as it was, and still is. And I think that we always just have to be making a new choice. Looking back at all these little origins that I had, there were some wonderful people that supported me. There was Dr. Raymer at Holy Cross College at Notre Dame, who he taught this, it's like English literature, but he would read Beowulf in Old English, like with the accent and the language and everything. And I was just enthralled by this man. And he could tell that I was really interested. And so he pushed me to focus a little bit more in literature. And then there was another professor at Columbia College who pulled me aside and said, Max, I think you could be really good at this if you actually just focused. And so there were just little points, but there were people pushing you to make a decision. And that's all these careers are. It's a constant decision, one after another. And if we stop making the same decision, or at least we try to make new decisions based on prior ones, that will keep us going. But if we just decide to not make new decisions, we're just going to keep doing the same thing over and over again. And it's not going to work.
Yeah. I'm actually going to remember to answer this question. Usually I forget to do that as a moderator, but a lot of wonderful things were said there. For mine, I think two things happened around the same time, because I was working in film, and to Max's point, I was going along the track. I was getting my DGA days. I was collecting my days as a production assistant or assistant director on non-union films, and I was just kind of saving up to join the DGA. But I've always loved storytelling. I've always loved writing as well. And I was on my first movie, I think, once I was in LA, having worked elsewhere first, and it was Beverly Hills Chihuahua Part 2, name drop. And at one point we were about to start rolling, and our first AD goes like diving in to stop. No, hold on. And he did this minor costume adjustment on one of the dogs. Like, all right, okay, now we're good to go. And I couldn't help but think that two things. One, this guy is as dedicated to his job as he needs to be to do that job right. And two, I don't ever want to be that dedicated to that job. And around that same time, I got invited to pitch a concept for a reality documentary style reality show. And I had never done that before. I did have ideas, of course. And I went in and very nervously just punted the pitch. I basically just started chit-chatting with the guy and not even, like, obviously I was telling my story, but like I didn't have anything prepared. And I just nervously went into interviewing him. And by the end of it, like all of what I wanted to talk about came out, and he ended up buying the pitch that I thought it was going to be lost immediately. And even like 5 minutes in, I'm like, well, you know what? You got to get the first one out of the way so that you can learn from it. And it went well. Obviously, it didn't go anywhere. It just didn't even get to the sizzle stage, which, projects don't always get very far. But that kind of opened up my opened up my mind that, yeah, I can come up with ideas that other people see value in too. And I think that's what really set me on a different path after that. So on exactly that note, because this is still going into, I think, what our big theme today is, which is about how to get yourself noticed. I was invited to do that pitch because I was putting out content on YouTube, on social media about stuff that interested me. And other people that were scouting to make that type of program then found me and came and invited me to pitch. So again, the idea of how do you get yourself out there? How do you get yourself noticed? I really think, just from the very core, your social media, your website, your blog, anywhere you can let your passion shine for others to see is really a good core foundational.
Writing and creating as many things as you possibly can. Like in our day, which is dating us, all of us, we didn't have social media. We barely even had the internet to post anything on. When we were really coming up and into this industry, early 2000s, it was all brand new stuff. And, some of our friends were really smart, like our friend Pete, who became Nice Peter on YouTube, was just fooling around on YouTube and made millions of dollars just having fun. But he was following his passion. But even at that time, like all of us, we were trying to think of something to create. What can I just make so that people see that I can do this? And it was coming from a place of just trying to allow people to notice me in any way, shape, or form. And in today's day and age, you have so many more ways to do that, so many more options in terms of not only creating literal, filmic material, but just getting your material out there, from contests to fellowships, but also online forums and then other forms of writing, like I mentioned earlier, in terms of writing for the Huffington Post or a blog or whatever,
Yep.
Yep, that's it.
Yep.
I like
You gotta
to
do it
talk
all.
I like to talk about playing the long game. So since I was, as I've mentioned, I was in reality TV, a lot of the people that I was working with in reality TV, I'm sure Scott can talk about this too with the people that he knows, you were all young PAs, trying to work your way up. And those were my friends. Those were my colleagues. And so now I'm at the point where those people are now either executives or producers or doing different things. So I actually have quite a few people that I actually like, who like me as a human being, who I can reach out to and connect and help connect other people with. I just connected one of my friends with a reality TV executive, and they heard a pitch and took the show. So it's about creating relationships and not transactional relationships. It's about meeting people who are like-minded like yourself, who you really enjoy, that you like, that read their stuff, share your projects. Again, back to what I was saying at the beginning, is find your people, create your group, meet producers, just try to meet as many people as you can. And if that means, hey, can I jump on Zoom for 15 minutes with you and just do a face-to-face just to kind of learn about your story, ask for that. Don't necessarily ask people out for coffee or can I buy you lunch? It's too much. It's like, oh, we can't do that in this day and age. We're like, oh no, I can't possibly drive and meet you. And there's so many people in different cities and different states. So meet people without expectation right off the bat. Create those long-term relationships with people that you really like, that you're going to support and that will support you, and help each other. Really do. Help each other, not to get something out of it. Just help each other to move them forward, because ultimately, karmically, if you believe in that, you will get it back.
And it's tricky for people who aren't in the hubs. We completely understand. It's difficult. You can't just go to a nearby party. Like Felicity and I were sitting at Teroni, our favorite restaurant. This was years ago. I'm sure you remember this, Felicity. And there was a gentleman sitting to the left of Felicity. She starts chatting him up because she's not afraid to talk to anybody. And it turns out this guy's quite literally an Oscar winner who the prior week was on stage winning an Oscar. And he was just so happens to be sitting next to Felicity. But so you're not going to get that in, my teeny tiny town where I'm living right now. But there are still ways, especially because it's such a global community now. And there are so many ways to get in touch with people online. You just have to create. I don't know how many. I just sent Scott an Instagram profile of this young woman who's so good at the bagpipes and all these other different instruments. And she's got like 1 million followers just because she's good at what she does and she has fun in it. So there are ways to get our voices out there,
I think and getting noticed. I mean, just to use an example of someone, a guy who won Table Read My Screenplay Sundance 4 years ago, M. Rowan Mayer, his name is. He had a script called Cloistered, which we really loved. And he has a feature film called Deathless that has been optioned and a short has been made. But he has done a podcast. He's written a podcast that he has started. And this podcast basically is such an interesting premise. Oh my God. You have to check out, everybody. You have to find Deathless on Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to your.
I think we're going to try to post it on the ISA.
Yeah, it's just so good. But it's it really goes into. He's created himself as a kind of like someone who's hosting the podcast in this near future, dystopian future, when no one dies anymore, and he's interviewing people about, is life still worth living if you can't die?
Oh, that's great.
And so he's coming from the premise like that is the reality right now. And then he interviews things, and they have this thing called, I can't remember how the phrase is, but basically it just means that if you're in a horrific accident, the first person in episode 1 has fallen off a building and is squashed. But because they fell off a building on the day that the event happened and they were squashed, they didn't die. They're still alive. So there's all these people that are still alive that should have died, who are now in. One of them has like a saw in the middle of their head.
Oof.
We put their head in half. It's just like it's just such an interesting idea about. So because you don't realize that death actually could be a benefit. You know what I mean? There are some things we'd rather not survive.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is it's such a good way. It's made me think so much about life and death, and I'm desperate to. I've read this feature of his before.
I think that's the point, though, Felicity. Like, he wrote a script that was a feature film, and then he's figured, well, people aren't buying into this yet. What can I do to get an audience based on the script? And he completely changed the approach to the idea, which is amazing.
Well, he's expanding on it. The feature still exists and is optioned. But what he's doing is he's building this audience for the feature when it gets made. And he's actually exploring more of the ideas, which you can't. I think it's got 17 episodes or something, which you can't explore in 90 minutes in a movie. And I think that's why everyone started falling in love with TV, is because you get a longer time with these incredible characters. You don't have to get in and out in the same way. But we have other writers, for say Jacida Giles, who is and actually she was from the Diversity Initiative, and another one of our writers, Jennifer Kim. Both of them are journalists. And both of them have written articles. One was published, I think, actually, they were both published in the New York Times, the 2 different articles, and they've both written screenplays based on the. Well, actually, sorry, one's a TV show and one's a screenplay. So again, they were journalists to begin with, so maybe they had a kind of like these different skills, but they're using it out there now. They've created IP, and everyone wants IP nowadays. Hello Sunshine. The reason why she started her book club was because she was looking for an audience to read the books of her book club so that she could then find the ones that were popular, well-liked, and turn them into movies. Reese Witherspoon is a very smart woman. There's a reason why she sold her company.
Craig, you got creative with your career in terms of trying to, here's a way for people to get to notice me. But then you also created the ISA in a little bit of a way for people to get to notice you. But you also saw that other writers needed to see ways to get other people to notice them.
Yes, there's a combination of things. I mean, finding new content and sharing our own stories to help encourage emerging talent. you know, the ISA being, I don't want to just dive into a whole ISA pitch, but it is about finding your own path. There's so many different pathways to breaking in. There isn't just the straight one-up model. And I know this is one of the myths we need to bust later in the conversation, but like the need to get an agent or a manager, that's how I'm going to break in. There's a lot of other ways to break in. And Rowan is doing that. The other writers are doing that with the having taken a piece they've written and developed that into something. I'm going to call my dream was IP. I wrote a dream. I wrote a short from a dream, and then that led to one thing, which led to another, which led to another, and just one. That's go back to the dog park. It's like you never know where your inspiration is going to come. You never know where the, you know, and I throw this word around too much, but the universe is going to lead you where your path is going to go. But you do have to explore a lot of different paths and not just listen to or read the same articles online as if there is only one way in, because that's just not true anymore. You can create, you can be more of the creator of your future by trusting your instincts, your heart, what you're feeling about life and what you want to say, because there is now more than ever a place for, there's an audience for what you want to say. You know, it doesn't have to just be the Marvel movies, the smaller movies. I think will definitely, that was the plant, the seed at the Oscars, that speech, to go back into that mindset. I think we've all feel that mega hit or mega movie burnout, you know. They're entertaining to some degree, but over and over and over and over again. Some of the smaller films that we're starting to see and some of the stuff that's coming through the ISA, because people are trusting their voice, it's incredible. And it's really an exciting time to be, even though it feels like we're a little stagnant at the moment. But I do think it's like we're watering the seed, having planted them last year during the strikes, and we're on our way to something pretty amazing in the next couple of years, for sure.
Yeah. Actually, sticking a little bit with the ISA, I want to bring this comment back up. Diane, she posts her wins on social media, not to brag, but to get people interested. And you just never know who might want to join your team, which is tremendous. Absolutely. And we have interns. A lot of us have interns. And one of the messages I shared recently was that I used to, before I joined the ISA, when I was a freelancer going gig to gig, I had a website that, in addition to having the resume and the reel, that kind of typical stuff, I blogged about what did I do today, which did a couple things. It for me, it made sure I stayed productive because I had to have something interesting, productive, creative to write
being
about.
Responsible to yourself. Yeah,
absolutely. But then too, I thought if anybody ever wanted to come to my page to vet me because I sent in an application, oh, I see this guy's working, he's doing stuff. And building a website is its own task, but people can kind of do that pretty easily with an ISA profile.
right.
So Craig, is there an element of, you've done so much development into creating that profile to be bigger and more versatile. Is there any element of it that you think people aren't yet fully taking advantage of? Or is there any other?
It's funny you should ask that, Scott.
This is not a
you know,
question,
we just launched in the last couple of days. This is not planned, everybody. This is just an interesting question and good timing. Our new share module, which is free to everybody to use to share your profile. So build out a really robust profile and use it as your resume, and add your projects and your success stories. It's not all the projects sharing with your own personal contacts, is you have to be an ISA Connect member to do that. But as far as sharing your success stories and sharing your profile, any success that you have, you can now post it on your profile, and then you follow the little links and it'll take you to sharing it on social media. So you can start letting people know you're out there and what's happening in your life. And then you can, if you're an ISA Connect member, you can upgrade for $10 a month to do that. But then you can share your projects with your own industry contacts. So everybody you meet, now you can send your projects, not just, hey, agent over at CAA, I've got this project I want you to read. It does help to have it come from the ISA, right? That's just one little kind of, it's the brand is, I feel, we have a lot of great relationships. I hate bragging about it. I just hate it. You can see how uncomfortable I get it. But anyway, so like sharing this stuff, This is a new tool. It's one of the best tools that I think is going to it has been built in a while, and will really change things for everybody to get their profiles out there and their projects out there and control it. Like, you have control over the content. So when you share your projects, you obviously know who you're sending it to, but then you can send them just the log line and synopsis. And if they like it, they can request your screenplay. So you're not actually giving them everything, just blindly, which is nice.
I think success stories, though, I think that people are a bit shy about bragging about themselves. Like Craig is shy about bragging. Because somehow you feel that you haven't done enough, or you're not worthy, or whatever it is. I mean, your writing is a very intimate thing to do, and you're sharing your heart and soul. We see you on the page with people. And so bragging about it on top of just going like, here's my insides, and now I'm going to tell you how good it is. It seems quite difficult. However, what you're doing is you're giving someone else the opportunity of knowing you and working with you. And you actually might be elevating their career if they get to work with you. So you actually might be helping someone else by sharing your success stories. We always say as well that everyone is waiting for someone else to pick them. You know what I mean? They'll be like, so who won that contest over there? They won. Okay, then I like them. I like their writing too. So if you can say, if you have this success, honestly, success breeds more success. I read every single success story on the site. And we also find 25 screenwriters to watch every year that we put a special spotlight on. And at least 5 of the, for 2024, of the screenwriters for 2024 came from success stories on the site. And that is because we are looking, we're trying to find you. And so is everyone else. There's no point being shy about the fact there's that amazing quote that says Nelson Mandela, but it's not. It was someone else, but I can't remember who. The good story, Hansel. Anyway, let me tell you about it. It's about dimming your light doesn't help anyone else, and I think that is the thing about it. To share, you should be proud of yourself, and to let someone else know that you are proud. And also, when you're saying your success, especially if you've done a short film or you've got other people you can shout about as well. The DP you work with, the actors you work with, it's not just you. It's that's the one thing. Writing is the only thing you do solo in this business. Everything else, it takes a village.
Stop being so damn humble. Seriously. I'm not saying that directly to Felicity. Yeah, Felicity, stop being the
cavalry's not coming, as Mark Duplass said. The cavalry's not coming. So you got to save yourself. Yeah. So put your stuff out there. And you know what? It takes 5 seconds. Write your success story, publish it, and then walk away and then feel all the feelings. Yeah. But guess what? It's out there. Put it out there. It's hard for me too. I don't like doing that stuff, but you have to, and then it gets easier as you go forward with everything.
Well, that's like doing anything, right? It's not just the sharing of success stories. It's the networking, meeting people, engaging without a motive behind it. Like you have to read my work. It's about engaging people and becoming friends in the community, which is very small. Hollywood isn't as it appears big from the outside, but it is not a very big community. And when you get into like even Chicago, it's even smaller. And you think, oh, Chicago's a big city. But I knew everybody when I back living there. We just had a big Chicagoans in LA party recently, and a bunch of people I knew from there. And it was like reconnecting with all of those people that we all got along with great back then. And there's already some collaborations starting from that. But it's all about just making and building friendships and not trying to sell your work or get your work in front of somebody and hey, I won all these awards, so you need to read my work. No, like show me that you're a collaborator and that we're going to work well together, because that ultimately is what it comes down to. You've seen everybody's seen it. You've seen movies across every platform. You're like, how the hell did that thing get made? And it's because of relationships, and not just, somebody knows it's Bryce Dallas Howard. You heard how difficult it was for her to launch her career, even with her dad. So all the nepotism stuff, set that aside. Building relationships and forming these like good bonds with people so they can trust you, or even volunteering anywhere you possibly can in the industry. If you can go do a couple of days as a PA on a set, you'd be surprised how many people you meet through even just some background, crew that are on set, whatever, and could lead to another position, that could lead to a relationship, that could lead to whatever. So it is about trying as much as possible and putting the energy into being in the industry wherever your community is, whether that is in a small town and finding the local actors and shooting a short, with your iPhone, just to play around with it and to explore your voice as an artist. It can be a small thing that can lead to the next bigger thing that leads to the next bigger thing. And before you know it, you're moving to Los Angeles.
And as somebody that looks at a lot of contests, there are film festivals out there that have categories for shot on a phone. So, I mean, it can go beyond the learning experience of doing it is valuable enough right there, but it actually could go somewhere.
Yeah. We have some really good questions, Scott, that I think are going to take a while to answer, and they're all excellent. And a few of them for Craig, I think it's going to kind of demystify the Connect membership a little bit, because I think more people need to know exactly what you can get out of this.
Yeah, absolutely true. I just wanted to chime in on Felicity's comment, though, because I like it so much. The idea that the self-promotion feels so uncomfortable. But if you have a paradigm shift in your head that it's not self-promotion, you're inviting people to go on this fun journey, that they're going to love this project. And if you feel that honestly, then it's not self-promotion. It's like building your team and having fun with that. But before, there's going to be a handful of pretty rapid fire questions here, mostly to Craig. But I think Michael here has pitched an idea for a tagline for who the ISA is. The smallest monthly fee with more sources that will actually get you recognized and sold. If your material's ready, I think that works.
Michael, we're going to use
it. Huh?
I said we're going to use that, Michael.
Yeah,
Also,
but even if your material, go ahead.
What? I'm just going to say Timm needs a shout out because he's throwing out a lot of tips.
I know.
Wants those prizes.
We see you, Timm. We see you.
Yes.
But even if your material is not ready, part of the Connect membership does offer the pro tips, a lot of pro tips where Max teaches, has a lot of lessons across the board, anywhere from pitching to, plot, theme, anything. But that's one aspect of the Connect membership. I don't think a lot of people realize that the valuable pro tips are on the ISA Insider. And I'll just kind of run through the Connect stuff. Also, most people know it for the writing gigs. So you can submit to paid writing gigs, which the relationships that we have with all the networks and studios, a lot of huge executives are looking for content. They're looking for them from us, as well as ICM and others. So we're submitting to these pretty big executives and getting a lot of general meetings for writers, which is great. And then we have the Writer Showcase.
Actually, before we go, we'll go to the showcase next. But since we have a question on gigs,
sure.
Question about gigs. Can you explain who the partners are, how and when we hear back after submitting?
Yeah, I mean, Felicity's got a better list of all the partners that we work with. But as far as like when you hear back, you may never hear back. This is kind of, I just want to set that right away. It is a long game you have to play with this. You heard the Bryce Howard story and 42 auditions. It's even harder, I think, with gigs. But, well, it could be hundreds of auditions. You just never know or submissions before your project gets in the right hands for the person who's looking for that type of project. And because there's generally no perfect screenplay, it's just, you got to keep trying and keep improving. One thing I would suggest is, if you want to get someone's attention, get the industry pros' attention, I'm begging you all, please rewrite your log lines. Keep experimenting with your log lines, because you can be passed over so easily for a log line we've all heard before. And when the ISA read 21,000 screenplays last year, I don't even know what the number is of log lines. With all those log lines coming through, they start to sound familiar. How do you set yourself apart? And if you're not experimenting with them and trying them over and over again to see what is getting the attention, then you're doing yourself a disservice. When I've auditioned people, It's the actors who come in and do something different with the role, that even if they're not perfect, that I'm thinking about them and I wanted to cast them in other roles. And I'm like, wow, that opens up my mind to them in another way. You have to grab our attention. And if you're not developing or working on your log line and coming up with that first pitch, that's the first part. Then you need to know your 3-minute pitch and then your 12-minute pitch. You need to work those through and play with them and get them so inside your body, another actor's technique. Get it so inside your body so that in that elevator, you can just pitch it authentically and it'll come out of you. So it'll be so organic that the person you're talking to or that's listening to you is going, oh, that's interesting. But what are the buzzwords that are getting their attention? So log lines, please work on the log lines and get those going.
So it's obviously Craig knows what he's talking about because he designed all of this. As far as what Mary is asking specifically, and she added another question: do we hear back if they request our script? Do we hear if they pass? The quick answer is no, Mary. If they pass, if you don't hear anything, they passed. At the same time, all those gigs are vetted by us. A lot of them are coming from meetings that Shayna and Felicity take with these companies. And they're general meetings and they're just forming relationships. What are you looking for? Cool. Is it okay if we post a writing gig? We won't put your name in there because they don't necessarily want other people reaching out to their company. And so a lot of them are coming directly from industry sources that we guarantee, if not all of them are coming directly from industry sources. In terms of how writers receive notification if somebody selects interested, Craig, does a writer receive an email notification? Do they see that somehow in their profile?
They will see it in their profile. You'll see it in the submissions page, my submissions. If you go onto that, into the little arrow next to your face, your profile picture, you'll see my submissions. And in there, anything you've submitted to, including writing gigs, contests, in the share modules in there too. You'll see any requests for your content. If you've only submitted, the script, the log line and the title, you'll see additional requests or maybe some requests for pitch materials if they want to. And yes, you'll see if it's in consideration. And from there, we get this complaint a lot. It's been in consideration for a year. It's been in consideration for a year and a half. Unfortunately, we press and press and press, but we can't always get producers to just go in there and say passed. It is kind of like you put it out there and they didn't do anything with it. But now I don't want you to be, totally discouraged because they did consider it. And this happens all the time. We'll talk to an executive, even our agent, and she's telling us what's super hot right now. And so we go digging and digging and digging for that. And then a month and a half, 2 months later, she's like, hey, it's not hot anymore. So we're digging and digging and digging for something else. And then a year later, they're back and they're interested in the projects that they were interested in before that year previous. So you don't know where you're going to fit or when. Brokeback Mountain took a long time. I don't know if I remember correctly. I know it's over 10 years. I don't know if it was 30, but it was a significant amount of time before Brokeback Mountain actually found its way into getting made. There's other stories that like that. Schindler's List, same kind of thing.
Queen's Gambit. Queen's Gambit is the 30.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the 30. Queen's Gambit. Thank you. So like these projects, your project, you don't know when it's going to fit in the world. That's why I said earlier that you have to keep writing new things and developing new projects, because you never know when you're going to be at the dog park talking to the right person who's, your 7 other previous scripts. They're like, I like number 3. You just don't know, and you got to keep developing.
Well, like what we've been talking about, writing gigs they're one way to get your material out there. You should be utilizing them as often as you're able. You should make sure your log line is thorough, properly formatted. It's not a tagline. I don't know how many writing gig submissions I've read that says something like, avoid the people from under the stairs or something. Like, I don't know what that means. What are you talking about? And I'm actually not even kidding. You have to actually present what this hook is. That's what a log line does. Anyway, I could wax poetic on that for hours.
Doesn't Harry Potter live under the stairs? I mean,
That's right.
The people from under the stairs. And thank you very much, Liz, for liking Bella. That's Bella Bing Bong. as she likes her full name. But she likes to join me on all Zoom meetings. She's met a lot of executives over the years, and I have to say that the ISA, if it's one of our gigs, we're very careful about going in and marking when the decision has been made. But it is outside producers that it's like being an actor all over again, where you go and you do your best thing and you never hear anything ever again. And there's just those kind of tumbleweeds, the tumbleweeds of your desires. But it's just keep going. I mean, I think if you don't keep going, submitting to a writing gig is definitely at least, again, even for your own self, it shows you that you are working. The same as Scott was saying with his blog that he did. You're still thinking out there. You're still putting your effort into the universe is always listening. Energy is always listening. So it's and we're always listening. Honestly, we are detectives hunting the site for you. That sounds a bit weird, but we
archaeologists.
Yeah, archaeologists. Yeah. We're digging in the writer showcase, in the success stories, in the writing gigs. There's a big team of readers that are reading all the writing gig log lines first, and then from there on. So that's why we stress the importance of log lines, and also because quite often, even when we're presenting projects to the industry pros that we've met in the last 2 years of taking meetings with them, the initial thing will be your logline and our notes on your project. So if they're not vibing with the logline and it's not actually doing service to the story that you're telling, then I mean we'll say, hey, you can improve that if we're working with you. But it is something to always be thinking.
I know there's videos on our pro tips page about logline writing, and there might be one coming up as well. So just definitely check that out. Remind yourself, even though sometimes they're lessons you've heard over and over again, it's always good to refresh yourself with how to do even the basics. Felicity mentioned the writer showcase. Craig, do you want to pick up where you left off, where you're about to?
So the writer showcase is another place where you can post. I mean, everyone's probably a little familiar with Inktip, where you just add your screenplays and industry pros are sorting through the site. The value of us, it's similar in a way, except it's a lot less expensive, and you can put all of your projects on there for just the $10 a month. And industry pros, we have over 5,000 have been vetted through the site that sort through the material. We're improving. That's another one of the pages we're improving upon, and we have another great thing that we're going to be doing with our ISA staff picks coming soon, which will drive even more traffic. Yes, that's right. We'll drive even more industry pros. So we're constantly vetting new people, meeting new people, and encouraging them to look through the site. It's easy. You go into your project, and at the end of it, you'll see the discoverability tab. Click that, and you get to control, again, what you're posting. It can just be a title and a logline, and that's it. And please don't worry about somebody stealing your logline or stealing your idea from your logline. Your logline is one aspect of your story. There's a whole 90-some pages that is your story, that is only unique to you. And so somebody can hear the idea, but they're not going to steal the idea. And I can't imagine how our vetted industry pros would steal any ideas. So don't worry about that stuff, but you still have control. Again, it's the title and the logline. If you don't post a logline, there's no reason to just put a title up. But you can add posters, you can add pitch decks, and the industry pros can request the information from you to read your screenplay. So then you know who they are. I say it does not own Inktip. No.
We have no association with Inktip.
No, none whatsoever. We just improved upon their idea. That's what and that's right. Anyway, ISA Connect is about all the bringing all the possibilities. When we started this conversation, was about how many pathways there are to breaking in, and you kind of need to walk them all because you never know which one is going to get you where you want to go. And so with the writing gigs, with the writer showcase, you get the share module where you can share your projects and success stories. You got ISA Pro Tips, so you can keep improving your work, improving your log lines, improving your pitches. You get discounts on all the classes that we offer, all the events that are paid events. You get generally for ISA Max's events, for ISA Connect members, they're free. And there's discounts on all the contests and programs, our fellowship. And then the last thing is that we do give 4 contest entries. The one is coming up on May 1st. You can enter one of the 3 emerging screenwriters competitions, action and adventure, animation, and then suspense, which includes horror, thriller, and crime. You get 1 free entry. That's a $59 savings on $120 you pay a year, unless you do the yearly membership for $100. I don't turn this into a whole pitch for ISA Connect, but the point is that it's $59 4 times a year you're saving, and you're getting the best thing about submitting to competitions that you don't even have to pay for is that you get to test your script on the industry and see how they're reacting. If you're not making quarterfinals, then you have work to do. I'd always encourage you to get feedback, order feedback with some of the competitions that you're submitting to, not all of them, but at least 1 or 2, and companies that you trust. And then when you get those notes back, you spent a lot less, because the entry was free. Maybe you got the notes back. But if you just want to gauge if they don't make the quarterfinals, your script's not ready, and you need to do more work, and that's why the notes are helpful. It's better to have gotten the notes simultaneously. So, and you get 4 of those every year, which is nice.
So that basically does answer this question here about the difference between the tiers that we have, and it's we don't really have a student membership. It's basic and ISA Connect.
We are offering student discounts,
okay.
which you can email Molly for if you want, molly@networkisa.org. If you are a student, you just have to send a screenshot of your student ID, and it's half off the ISA Connect membership.
Gotcha. And then here's there are actually 2 very similar from Bo. Can the ISA help with connecting like-minded people in my area? And Mary is asking, can we connect with each other? I'm guessing she's meaning other writers through the ISA site.
So currently, the messaging system only works for industry pros to a writer. So they have to have contacted you first, and then you can engage with them. But it literally just went into the log for not the next sprint they call them, but the next development to get our messaging system to be available for anyone. As long as you have their email address, you can start messaging them internally and connect with them. So that is coming.
And I would say in the meantime, though, we do have social media, Facebook. People can go onto those pages and just ask, say, hey, I live in Chattanooga. Does anybody else live in my area that wants to start a writers group?
And
there are some writers groups from our Third Thursdays on Facebook.
Third Thursdays, in terms of connecting with other people in your area, a lot of cities around the country have Third Thursdays events that are live meetups. We're slowly launching. It's kind of in small beta version right now of a new membership that is a community forum, much like Facebook, where I'm posting material all the time and lectures and just fun videos and quick tips. And then in the meantime, writers can communicate with each other and share material. And it's kind of like a big writers group, but we're trying to work out the kinks of that before we make it wide.
Excellent. Yeah. So I've got a question here that's directed towards Craig, but I want to see what Shayna has to say about this also as a filmmaker herself. And she's excited about it, I can tell. Is it better to finish a full script or continue to develop outlines and pitches for like 5 different projects at once?
Well, as somebody who really likes to start new projects, finish the script. If you're writing something, finish it. But I would say if you need to step away from that, yes, start developing new stuff. I work on multiple things at once because sometimes my brain is like, if I'm too deep into that, I get down too many rabbit holes, and then I'm off cleaning my kitchen instead of writing because I'm like, so I do both. But if you have a script and you're about to finish it, here's what will happen. You will meet somebody and they will be like, what are you writing? And you'll talk about the 5 scripts that you have done. And then you'll pop in there with the one script that you're like noodling with, and they'll be like, oh, I like that one. Can you send me that one? You don't have to write me. So finish the script.
You're always going to need a finish.
As it is in a first draft, finish it.
You're going to have to finish them all. So it really doesn't do you that much good. I mean, it does you good, but to have a whole bunch of projects that are just in outline form and pitch form, Sometimes in TV, you can get away with it where you don't need a finished pilot, but you definitely need a fully developed pitch deck and pitch and graphically designed beautiful deck. And there's still a lot of work to do. You have to know all the seasons and et cetera, but you're going to have to finish the script.
You can't, the thing, sorry to interrupt you, Max.
No, go for it. It's all right.
I was going to say the thing about that is that people accept pitches mainly from people they already know. Mm-hmm. So from writers they already know, from work they've already read of theirs. So even if you get lucky and they accept your pitch for a project, they're going to say, what else have you written, so that they can at least have a look at your writing style, even if they dislike the pitch. So you have to have finished work. There's no two ways about it. If you just have all these outlines, they'll be like, so where's the proof you can do it? Mm-hmm. Unless you want to sell ideas, and then you need a writing partner, and you go like, you write it, I'll come up with the ideas, and we can kind of like work out a deal. But yes, finishing is also you get the reward. I've done it. I've got to the end. It's the hardest thing. And then guess what happens next? You have to rewrite it.
Right. Never ends. You get the notes and then you're like, oh shit, I gotta change this. But I have journals all over my place, and I write down ideas and then I expand on them. And then if I'm watching a show, I'm like, that's a great idea for this project. That's a great idea for that project. Nothing wrong with accumulating as they pop into your head. But yeah, I'm 100% in agreement that like focus in on one or two screenplays. We have some writers that we're working with now that they're bouncing between the two screenplays that we're really excited about, and they're working on them both. But they take a break from the one because you just clear your headspace of it. Everybody knows you read your work over and over again, and you think you know exactly what you're saying, and then you read it back 3 months later, and you're like, oh shit, that wasn't really what I was. That isn't as clear as I'd hoped it would be. So separating yourself and working on another project is a great thing to clear your mind of the previous one. So you come into it fresh when you look back at it.
And Liz, I think just to jump on your question here, material ready, does that mean a finished script and pitch deck? What else needs to be ready?
That was the next one I was going to pull up.
I was going to say, I was reading your mind. Thank you for sending it across. Wee, woo, wee, woo. Got it. So I think it's just that you need at least one finished script with a pitch deck and your 1 minute pitch and your 5 minute pitch and your 10-minute pitch done. You just like allow yourself at least one thing that has all the things, a poster for the side. So you could, if someone asked you, what are you working on? You could go like, I can send you a pitch deck, or I have a synopsis, and you've got that all done at least for one thing while you're noodling with these other things. The reason why you need to do that is just because you then look professional to whoever you're speaking to. They're not like, if you've got a pitch deck, oh no, I haven't done that yet. It's just really, you just want to say, yes, I have. I've had some ideas about it. I've thought about where it sits in the market. These are the comps. It's like, this is kind of these kind of comps. It just makes someone feel certain about you and your work. And that's what you want to do. You want to convince them that you know what you're doing. Having these other things as well, it's like Craig was saying, these other ideas you're working on, and as Shayna said, that that's the one that go, that's really interesting, is kind of one of those things too, because then you can, but at least if they say, and you can go, well, actually that's still in pitch form, however I can send you this other project which I have done full, and then if we wanted to work together to create this pitch into a story, I can do that with you, maybe getting paid for development. How crazy would that be if it is someone that's who likes you and your work?
And on that note, I guess that came up as
Thank you for listening. Great tip.
Where can we get pitch deck education? I might throw that to Shayna.
You can go to our website. We have we have a video that's like an intro to pitch decks. That's Scott can tell you where that lives. But also we give classes on pitch deck building. We also have wonderful Caitlin Arcand, who is our social media, and she also builds pitch decks. So if you have no idea what you're doing and you don't want to do it yourself, but if you're somebody who can go on and sort of put something together, it will help you. Even if you go to a designer, they can zhuzh it and make it like pretty and cohesive. A great resource is Canva. canva.com. We have no affiliation with them, but we should. You can go on there and you can build your own, or at least part of it. You can also make a poster on there. If you search on Canva for movie posters, a whole ton of really good templates pop up in all different genres. You can literally just use that as a template, put in your title, slap that up there. It looks professional. Do it. So yes, they put the link up there. We do offer lots of different resources in pitch deck building and creation. And if you would like, we did a past webinar, and our designer built and gave us a wonderful PDF that's sort of a overview of pitch deck and all the pages and where you can find images. If you would like that, you can reach out to me, which is Shayna@networkisa.org, and I can send that to you by email.
So, Scott, where can people watch these replays of these, or do they
On the pro tips page?
On the pro tips page, and for the introduction class that Shayna and Caitlin did together, and Caitlin is watching, by the way. Hi, Caitlin. The link is in the comments right now, so you can click on that. It goes over to the pro tips page. If it's not, I don't know if it's clickable, but copy and paste if it's not a clickable.
And so it's clear. It's go to the ISA Insider tab first, and then pro tips are in there.
And just while you're in Canva, everyone that's watching and listening, that's another thing. Liz, you're amazing. I mean, Caitlin is amazing too. Is that while you're in Canva, and you don't have to pay for it. There's a free element of it as well that you can just sign up for. But make a poster for every one of your scripts, because honestly, as people click through, if you put your script on the Writer's Showcase, make sure you have a profile picture, make sure your script has a poster, because people like pretty pictures, you know what I mean? And it doesn't have to be the final thing. It could be a holding place, but it's just so that someone goes like, oh, understand the tone. If it's a horror thing, make it creepy, you know. If it's a comedy, nice and bright colors, just so that we can go like, oh, that's that, and it kind of catches our eye. Honestly, no one's looking. They're not going, that's the best title I've ever seen. You know what I mean?
Right.
Do loads of them. Whereas an image, it's like how I choose wine. I don't choose wine. I mean, I am a bit more sophisticated than that. Certainly more sophisticated. But like the books, you go for the beautiful cover, don't you? The wine, it just helps us.
Yeah, you guys, I'm not kidding you when I say Canva has some absolutely phenomenal posters. You will be blown away if you just go in there and do search movie poster. So many pop up, and I feel bad for designers, because honestly, you could just go in there, change the title, switch some things around, and boom, you have a poster. And it's temporary, but it does help.
So a quick question, another website question. Are ISA notifications archived if you're Connect?
Which notifications? Oh, the notifications at the top of the page. They're all there until you delete them, as far as I know.
Lorelai, if you have a more specific type,
they all stay in the scroll. So the notifications on what you've submitted to or been tagged, or any requests, submissions, they're all in there. I don't think we even have a delete button. I probably should look into that. If you have a lot of them. Oh, it says, sorry, that's all your notifications from the last 60 days. So they are not kept after 60. So my apologies. Weirdly enough, I did not know the answer to that question.
There you go.
But at the same time, you should be on your ISA page more than every 2 months. So
yeah, but everything that you're being notified of is in your submissions, right? So it's just a notification letting you know that something you submitted to, or that you got a request. So everything is in your submissions page, on the submissions page. If there's something that you're not seeing there, you can email me at craig@networkisa.org, and I will investigate further and get it fixed.
There we go. And as far as best software, I really think any software that's really is a screenwriting software, it's going to be up to personal preference. The format is going to be.
I'll say Final Draft is industry standard. Movie Magic Screenwriter is awesome. I love it, but it's pretty expensive. Writer Duet is, I think, like $12 a month, and it looks exactly like Final Draft, and it's all based in the cloud. Those are the three primary that I can always think of. Some people have a whole bunch. There are other ones that you can use, but those are really the three that I think are most well known.
Yeah, and when you say industry standard, that's for, I think, collaborating maybe with somebody. At the end of the day, you're going to send in a PDF.
Right.
So at that point, it doesn't really matter.
As long
Just
as
make sure you're using some form of software, because doing
right.
it on Word and then the spacing's all off, and when you read enough screenplays, you notice these things, and it takes you out of the story. And you don't want to give us any reason to be thrown out of the story.
Absolutely.
So try to stick to as much standards in the industry, whether it's the formatting, whether it's, writing your any aspect of the script, from dialogue being centered to whatever.
Yeah.
No one's going to take
true.
your script seriously unless it's in a professional format and you've proofread it and you have no typos. 1 or 2 is okay, but not on your first page. And just make sure it's formatted correctly and that you've done it correctly, because why spend all that time writing when you just mess it up by improperly formatting it in the correct software?
Yeah, I was going to say, when you're going
Okay.
into production for final draft, ADs and other people, when you go into production, use final draft, and they actually go in and they number the scenes, and so actually it becomes something. It helps when you move into production. So the fact of the matter is, if you start professionally, then you're actually showing that it's more ready to be picked up and move into production.
And when you get into the writing aspect of things, just like we said about the log line not being a tagline, and working on those log lines, get your first page to just say something unique. Get your next 4 pages to say something unique about you and what you're trying to sell or say. A lot of people will say, well, my story really picks up in the middle, but no one's going to get to the middle. We need to get there. They're industry pros, agents, managers, producers, studio executives are not going to read. They will not read past 5 pages if you don't hook them immediately. So if there's one tip that you learn, make sure you hook them in that first 5 pages and represent your unique voice.
Flashback. That doesn't mean you have to put something in your first page that's like the big thing that happens, and then 10 years earlier. You do not have to do that. He just means that it has to be good writing at the beginning, so that we see on the page the potential and that there's movement moving forward. Yeah, you don't have to front load. I love a slow burn. We all love a slow burn. It just means the hook itself has to be something that's interesting enough that makes us keep reading. And that just means really good writing and story. Yes.
Yeah. So we are right at the end here. I just want to acknowledge the questions we didn't get to and we were not going to have time for. Actually, there's one I want to ask. The difference between writing a feature versus a TV, that is a big topic. And I think we have a lot of content on our pro tips page. Max, you've probably done a whole webinars exactly on that topic. So I just don't want you to feel like we're ignoring you. We saw it. It's just a little too big for this exact conversation.
I will say just a quick response to that question, Liz. TV writers have more work to do. Even though writing a feature is a lot of work, a TV writer has more work to do. Don't take it for granted.
Yeah. There's a lot we could say, like even the collaboration being in the room. We've talked about all that. You have to be able to take notes if you're going to get into TV writing. So start now by when you get notes in, to be very open to those, because when you're in a writer's room, they're going to tell you, send you down a different path, and you're going to think it's insane, but you're not the showrunner and you kind of have to follow that path. So being very open, whereas a feature, writing your own story, you can stick to your guns a little bit more, but when you get into the writer's world, you got to be very open to all sorts of collaboration and exploring very unique ideas and offering unique ideas.
Everyone remember to put your favorite tidbit in so you can win the tickets.
Yeah, and so that is actually for New Filmmakers Los Angeles May Film Festival, which is focus on Asian cinema and immigration, celebrating Asian Pacific Heritage Month and stories of immigration in general. NFM LA, which I don't know if anybody's ever attended one of those events, but they're a lot of fun.
They're great.
Absolutely.
If you're an emerging writer or actor, director, you should go to that event.
Well, it's a nice networking event too.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
So it says, come on out to the South Park Center on May 4th to watch some great films, network, and more. So even if you don't win free tickets, which is what we will be giving away, keep putting those favorite lessons learned. Feel free. And my final question, because somebody did ask, this ties in with a YouTube short we just posted. Are you all watching our shorts? Check them out. Is somebody talking about trying to get more funding by doing these little tricks, put a cameo in for a recognized star, all of these things, which is all part of the equation. We just published yesterday a short that was from a bigger conversation on the Shudder film Glorious, which we did an event with the filmmakers for that Shayna moderated. And they talked about how important tax incentives were. That Mississippi, which is where they shot it, was one of the cheapest places that they could possibly have shot it because of the great tax incentives. Should you be mindful of that kind of stuff? Like, if I'm writing a screenplay, does it have to be Fenway Park, or could it be at a minor league stadium in Mississippi, and therefore it's more marketable from a production standpoint? Do you think about those types of things when?
I think it's a huge topic to discuss, and Felicity, you can speak a lot to this.
I was going to say, I think it's too big for like at 6:32, and everyone has got things they have to go.
Yeah,
do. I mean, my one thing would be there are lots of reasons as to. Thank you, Bella Bingo. Thank you so much. My one thing would be is that don't write to budgetary concerns, because then don't want it to stifle your creativity. However, if where it is set is so important, then it becomes a character in your piece, then consider that when considering tax incentives. I mean, like New York, for example, is a character in any piece it's in. It becomes person. The city means something. If it doesn't mean anything, why bother to film it in New York? Because it's expensive, you have to shut down streets. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, so make sure that it's worth it. And if it's not worth it, it could be, if it's just a tiny house and it's a family, then you can do that wherever the tax breaks are. And consider that. That would be my short answer to that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'd love to do more of these. So even though this event is wrapping up now, if you're watching this on a replay, leave questions still. Those questions might make it into our next ISA Roundtable event. We always have stuff going on. More and more, it's beginning to come back in person, so you might be able to network with people in your towns. But at the very least, we are always here. Social media, YouTube. We want to be part of your success story. So thank you all for joining us tonight.